There
Hi.
we go. Hopefully
Very
this
nice.
works now.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. I think we were supposed to do this in May last year, right?
Yes,
But then everything went to shit, so that
right.
didn't happen. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, really cool that you want to talk to me.
Thanks for including me. I've been checking out the YouTube channel, and it's really cool.
Oh
So
yes. Oh, okay.
thanks for including me.
Can you speak a bit German?
I was watching one with subtitles, so
Yes. Yes.
that was helpful.
Okay. Cool. I normally wanted to introduce myself, and yeah, but I nevertheless do it. I'm Franka, and I run the YouTube channel Mädels an die Bässe, or Girls Play the Bass. And I do a few interviews with female bassists to show that there are bassists on these stages of the world, and to show that there are already some women in the business. Maybe you can first tell us where are you at the moment and what's your schedule this or next week?
So right now I'm at home at my house in Sheffield. My schedule. I had a baby 8 weeks ago, so I'm mainly busy with him, second baby. And my first little girl is 3 years old, and he's 8 weeks old. So just hanging out with them, really.
Oh, congratulations. I
Thank
didn't.
you.
Cool. There are also other news. Your new single is going to be released in a few weeks, I think end of April.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're still finalizing the dates for it, but everything's nearly ready to go. I'm excited about it because it's been 6 years now since we released anything. So really excited to have something new out there. And the album was finished during lockdown. So it started in a normal way, and then we finished it all from our separate locations. So I guess it's kind of special to us because of that we managed to find a way to finish it.
Yes, yes, I recognize that it's a pretty long time that you released something. Why is it so a long time?
The main reason why that happened was Billy went to university. So he went to university for Billy's the singer and guitarist and songwriter, producer in the band, and he went to university for 3 years. But then in that time, I've had babies as well, so that's kind of what I've been doing, and we've been doing this a long time. So I think just to have a few years to kind of do something else for a bit, and then now coming back together, but we never intended it to be quite 6 years. I think this is a bit longer than we planned, but that's just how things happen sometimes.
Can you tell us something about the new single? What will it be about? How will it sound?
Sound wise, it's one of our heavier tracks, I think. It's the guitars and bass have got lots of distortion, quite big riffs, and lyrically, is Billy's lyrics, and he wrote them after he went to a Black Lives Matter protest. So it's very much themed around that, and how that made him feel, and just how he's got quite involved in that world.
Would you say you are a political band? Is it important for you to show people what you think?
I think we've never necessarily been known as a political band as such, but Billy is very political. I guess we all kind of have our own ideals, I suppose. But Billy is now becoming more political, and I think it's something that he definitely wanted to show with his lyrics on this album.
Tell us something about the new album.
Um, so first of all, the release, very much unknown at the moment because playing live is everything to us, really. It's we love to play live, we love to be on tour, so we very much want the album to come out when we can do that again. So we have a loose plan of around this time next year when hopefully things are back to normal, or some sense of that. But that may move if we're not able to tour again. Sound wise, I think it's quite different this time for us. With although this first single is quite heavy, some of the other tracks have a bit more like synths and different instruments on them. Me and Billy have had fun playing with synthesizers, which has been cool, and I think shaped the sound of the album a little more. There are still some rock tracks on there. I think it's ended up quite mixed, and I don't know whether that's because how over half the album was finished with all of us at home. So I guess we've had more time to play around with things, which maybe that's why, or maybe it would have always been like this. But yeah, in general, I think it's quite different to other things we've done before.
Okay. What is your role in writing songs? So do you often come with a bass lick and the others add the rest, or how do you do it?
So it starts with particularly for this album, I guess for the one before that as well, Billy, because we all live in different places now, Billy uploads guitar and vocals, and that's where it starts. And then we kind of demo things. So I'll demo bass, or I don't know, synthesizers or backing vocals or whatever it is that I want to do. And Josh would do the same drum wise. And then from the demos, it would then grow into the song, and maybe more bits would be added along the way. But yeah, this is where you can see behind me, actually, that's my mini vocal booth. So that's where I do my recording when I'm at home. So that's how it's worked this time. And before for the previous albums, there was a bit more, maybe the three of us in a room together. So Billy would bring, and again, it's always Billy that brings the initial in, but maybe we'd work more in a live setting. But this time it's been all of us at home, a bit more separately.
And your producer, I read, was Adrian Bushby, and he worked together with big bands, Muse, Placebo, U2, Foo Fighters, and so on. Really cool bands. How is it to work with him?
Yes, he mixed our last album, and he's mixing this album as well. But I've not actually met him because Adrian comes in at the mixing stage. But because Billy produces it and then he sends it to Adrian. But Billy knows him quite well, and they're quite good friends now. And he just says he's amazing to work with, and just to know that when he sent back the first song from this album, just completely blown away by the sound. It sounds huge. He's just between Billy and him together, Billy as producer and Adrian as a mixer, I think they work really well as a partnership to create this really big sound.
So you're really happy with the result for the album?
Yeah, I'm really, really proud of this album, and I'm really excited about it. And it's just really hard that we have to wait so long to release it. It's been ready for, well, it's still being mixed at the moment, so it's not totally ready, but it's going to be ready for a long time before we release it. But it's cool that we're now releasing this single at the end of April, and then I think the plan is to release another single maybe later in the year, and then before we know it, I guess it will be time to release the album.
Josh, your drummer, will leave the band. He played the last time on an album with you. So how does it feel for you that he leaves?
I was very sad. If I'm being very, very honest about this, it was really sad that we'll no longer be playing with him. I think especially because of COVID and everything going on. I mean, we didn't have a last show, if you know what I mean. Like, we had a last show, but we didn't know that it was our last show. And our last shows as well were a little bit strange because all the COVID things were starting to happen, and it felt a bit weird to be doing shows with your light flickering. It looks quite cool. It's like a cool effect.
Do you already have a new drummer?
We don't yet. No, that's because in the UK we're still in lockdown, so it's difficult for us to get together at the moment. I live in the north of England, Billy lives in the south, so we can't, we're not supposed to travel right now, so it's difficult for us to set up rehearsals. But we do have some people in mind, and it'll be good to do some rehearsals with them, which will hopefully happen hopefully in a couple of months. As soon as I'm able to go down to the studio, that's what I'll do.
Hmm.
Yes, we don't have anybody yet, which is kind of strange, but I guess there's no shows happening right now, so it's it's something we will work out.
Yeah, and the connection between bass and drums is very important in a band.
Mm.
Do you worry about this, that you don't know if it will be like with Josh?
Yeah, it's just going to be different. That's the thing. I think we can't try and Josh was a very unique drummer as well, so I think we can't try and directly replace him. We just need to accept it's going to sound different and it's going to be different, but that's okay. And like you say, it's about the connection between the bass and the drums. It's not necessarily about the drummer being the most amazing drummer. It's about how we play together and the vibe and the connection between all three of us on stage that's kind of more important than than being super technical. Although obviously that would be amazing too. So I think it's quite important for us to have a few rehearsals with the person that we think might like to join, and just check that, yeah, that's going to work.
Josh wants to quit the band because he wants to have more time for family, I think. And how do you manage to connect these two things, family and band life?
To be perfectly honest, I have no idea. I'm trying to figure that out. We've we've not done a huge amount since my first little girl was born. We did do quite a lot the first summer, and she came with me for some of it, which kind of worked, but it's just I'm still trying to balance of how we do this. I'm lucky I have very supportive husband who also works in music, so he sometimes comes as well, or he's very supportive of what I do, so it kind of, we just work it out between us, and we take each. It's very difficult to plan for the future beyond the next sort of month or so. We just try and slot everything together. I think it's okay so far, but I just got to keep working on it.
Let's talk about Corona. I mean, it's not very fun to talk about it. It's now a year. You already said it. You wanted to go on tour last year. You played a few gigs, but then you had to cancel everything. How did that feel? And were there really moments where you were really depressed, or how was it?
It was, I think the hardest part is around these dates last year was when we were playing shows, but it was all over the news and no one knew what was happening. And every day we'd wake up and think, like, are we playing this show tonight? Should we be playing this show tonight? What's going on? Like, it was that, I think that was the hardest bit. I think once the decision was made that it's not happening anymore, then kind of accepted that, and just, I think that at that point we just knew that you can't be having lots of people together when this horrible illness is flying around. So I think now it's gone on so long. I just miss it so much. I miss being on stage. I miss playing. I know Billy feels the same way, because it's what we do. It's who we are, and we had all these shows lined up, and we were so excited to play them, especially as it had been a little while since we'd played at that point as well. So just excited to get back to it as soon as it makes sense to do so.
Yeah. What is so great about playing live?
I think it's the energy and the excitement, and there's just nothing quite like it. Whenever this is a bit of a sidetrack, but I started doing like running and triathlon and doing races because the feeling of crossing the finish line was the closest thing I could find to the feeling of being on stage. It wasn't as good, but it was kind of similar sort of feeling. And I think it's quite addictive, that feeling of being on stage and that euphoria. and I just really miss it when I was at home. So I was looking for something else to feel that. I just love watching everyone in the crowd, seeing all the faces, seeing everybody dancing, jumping, feeling that connection. It's really special. I feel very lucky that that's what I get to call my job.
Can you name one song you like most playing live?
There's a few. I think Rock and Roll Queen is always fun. Everyone knows it. And even if no one's ever heard of us, as soon as that, everybody knows that song and everybody sings to it, and the sound of the crowd is huge, which is amazing. There's another song called Girls and Boys, which is one of our heavier songs, which I like to play that.
Girls and Boys, the bass line is tough.
Yeah. Thanks, that's cool.
Okay. And is there any venue you say you would like to play there in the future?
I think there's just a lot I'd like to go back to, because you're in Germany. I'm just thinking of all the great venues that are in Germany. I was watching an interview with a bassist at I'm going to say it's Coney Island in Leipzig.
Yeah.
Or Connor Island. Connor Island? I'm not sure. I'm saying it wrong. But yeah, we've played that venue like, yeah, Connor Island. Yeah, we've played there like, I don't know, I've forgotten how many times, loads. And that's a great venue. There's so many great venues in Berlin, in Hamburg, in Munich. I think Germany is a very special place to us. So that's where we're really excited to come back and play there.
I also wanted to talk with you about the Brexit, because you asked your followers to sign a petition in connection to the Brexit. Maybe you can explain what is the problem about the Brexit for you as a musician?
So the complication comes, I mean, there's lots of complications with it. I think one of them is the potential for visas, and there being a cost involved with that, and also a lot of time in admin. There's also the potential for hold-ups at borders. So sometimes it's quite tight, like if you're traveling quite a long distance to get between shows, and if there's hold-ups at the borders, the risk of not making it to the show, and the kind of the whole tour being longer, because you kind of have to allow for these travel sort of problems, which means we have to pay more crew time, more bus times, becomes more expensive. I think it's less of a problem for the bigger bands, but I think for us it's definitely going to be an expense. And then I worry about the new bands. Like we went over to Europe in a van the first time and just toured around, but I think for a lot of bands now that may become inaccessible because it's too expensive, or the timings between the gigs aren't going to work. So it's a really shit situation, and I think it's going to take a little while to settle down and to see how we work within that. I think the good thing is that quite a few of the countries we play in regularly have said that you can be there for 90 days without a visa. So I think as long as we keep tours below 90 days, or play 90 days, go home for a bit, then come back out, or something like that perhaps. It's a bit of a headache, and I think no one really knows quite at the moment. I think it's the unknown as well. No one really knows what's going to happen with it until we all start doing it again. Not great though.
How's the situation for musicians and artists in the moment in Great Britain? Here in Germany, the politicians don't do much for artists. They struggle a lot.
It's the same here. We very disappointed about the government's response to the arts and entertainment industry in general. I think they have thing about how we're giving furlough and we're kind of distributing money to help people, but it's not really been managed that well. And a lot of like I've got nothing from this, and a lot of people in the same situation to me, and not been able to do our jobs for and the kind of just the government's response to, I think there's quite a big thing about a lot of like crew members, so like guitar techs, sound engineers, people who work on tours. The government's sort of saying that these people should go and retrain and get other jobs. It's really quite offensive because these are highly skilled people who've been working, maybe 20 years, and they don't want to go and do something else. They want to do their job that they're trained in. So it's just been pointing, really not all that helpful at all to the music industry, I don't think.
Let's talk about how you came to music. You come from a small town near London, and how was life there when you were a kid or when you were young? And how was the music scene there? What were your influences in music?
So it was both really. So there were venues to play near where we lived, and we were quite young, so near where our parents lived, because we were teenagers, so we were still at home. There were maybe, like, I'm trying to count, like there was like less than 10 venues across like an area close to us. So then because of that, we did play in London as well. We just sent off loads of demos to these venues because that was before the internet, really. That's how old we are. So we'd send off like CDs to loads of different promoters, and just hope that they'd ask us to play at their venues, and just played anywhere that would have us, really. That's how we started.
And was it always your aim to be a rock star, or did you think, oh, music making is a hobby and I will do another job?
I think initially, because we were so young, I think we were just three kids making a load of noise. That was our aim. We just wanted to play Nirvana covers and just have fun. But then started writing our own songs, and getting more people coming to shows and getting a good response, and really falling in love with doing that, and really thinking, actually, yeah, this would be super cool if we could do this. So I think that started to happen quite quickly, really. I think maybe we'd been in the band for a couple of years, and we were thinking, yeah, like maybe we should try and do this. Let's just see what happens.
How did you know that you want to play bass?
So Billy and Josh are brothers, and they already played. So Billy played guitar, Josh played drums, and Billy was my boyfriend at the time. And so they said, well, they need a bass player because they've got, a guitarist and a drummer. And so Billy said he'd teach me how to play bass. So he showed me where the notes were on the bass, because I played other instruments that kind of made sense to me. And then I learned Nirvana songs. That's how I learned to play. I taught myself Nirvana songs, and went from there, and then just started playing with Billy and Josh.
And what would you say, how did your bass play develop over the years?
The way that I think it developed is that I started to really try to be in the bass, as well as it's a very rhythmical instrument, but trying to find melody to complement Billy's guitar, because we are a three-piece. So I think there is room for the bass to do that, to add melody and to kind of be like in between the drums and the guitar. So kind of add melody and also add rhythm. And that's what that's the bass lines I really enjoy listening to, are only with like really like great melodies, almost melodies that you could sing perhaps. That's what I like to listen to, and that's what I like to try and bring if I can.
And what do you love about bass playing?
I've always really liked just the it feels like quite a big instrument, the sound, the deep sound. I just love the feel of that vibration, and the power that brings, and I think a lot of it's being in a three-piece makes has shaped bass playing. And what I love about it is having that important sort of anchoring role, to like between the drums and the guitar, as I was saying before.
And what are your two favorite basses and why?
Oh, such a hard question because there's so many. I really, how many basses? I thought you said bassists as in players.
Oh, well.
So basses, no, yeah. So bass, as in bass guitars, I have well, I have these two behind me at home, and then I have two that I tour with, and the two that I tour with are identical because the first one I love so much, and I feel like that's just me and that's my sound. But I needed a backup one, so I got an identical one. So that, although it's different, it's definitely different to the first one. The first one all scratched and has been played for, I think it's 15 years now. I've had that bass. And I kind of have this dream of that bass is just going to follow me forever and just kind of have all the battle scars of everything it's been through and that whole journey that we've been on together.
Okay, and can you tell us the names of the basses?
Yeah, I should have said that, shouldn't I? It's a Lackland bass. So it's Lakland, which is it's a Chicago-based company. So the first one I got, I went to the factory and this the workshop, and I went there when we were playing on tour in the US in 2006. So that's why I always remember the date that I got it, because we were on tour with Taking Back Sunday, Angels and Airwaves, and Headmatica. Yeah, and I got to go and visit the guys at Lackland in Chicago, which was really cool.
Okay, and what kind of effects do you use for your bass? So how do you get the sound you like?
So the pedal I've had for years now for playing live is a Boss bass distortion. That plus the Lackland bass plus an Ampeg SVT2. That's like my sound, and it's really solid, and it kind of has tone but also a lot of depth to it. On the new album, I've used the Boss bass chorus a little bit in some songs, which has been nice to kind of add like a sort of a softer sound to the songs where I felt that I needed it. Yeah, and then sometimes when we've been in studios, there's been other pedals to play around with, but yeah, mainly that Boss bass distortion.
And what do you still want to learn on the bass?
Because I'm self-taught, I still have lots to learn, I think. So I've always learned by just hearing a song I like and learning how to play it. That's how I've learned. So I'm really not very technical at all. So I think maybe at some point it might be quite nice to learn some better technique, just to add some different dynamics to our songs. Yeah, maybe I should go for like a master class or something. I don't know.
Okay, and how do you play the songs you like? Do you just hear and try to play then? Or do you use tabs from the internet?
So I think this is well, I think it's quite interesting. But when I play piano, because I learned from sheet music, I can only play with sheet music. I can't play without. But with bass guitar, I can't play with tab because I learnt by ear. So I hear something and I learn how to play it. And if I try and play with tab, like I can do it, but it's really slow and clunky. So I think that's really interesting because I think that shows that it depends how you learn the instrument. So yeah, with piano being very reliant on sheet music, and I can't remember anything. Like if I try and play without it, I can't remember. Yeah, with bass, just like hopeless with tab. So I think it shows that it depends how you learn.
Okay, and let's talk about that you are a female bassist in a rock band, and that's still special, I think. Do you see yourself as an idol for maybe other women and girls, or maybe women and girls come to you and tell you that they also want to play the bass because you play it?
So I don't think anyone really kind of thinks of themselves as being an idol. I've always found that, I don't kind of think of myself in that way. But then I think also the nature of being a female bass guitarist is, as you said, there's not so many of us. So by definition, you almost become an idol because there's not many, and so people need to see women doing it, and you automatically become an idol because by doing it, you kind of just you are, because you're showing that it can be done and you can be a woman who plays bass. And it's always really special to me if a woman tells me that she plays bass because she's seen me play. that's, you know, that's really amazing to me, because I play bass, because I saw people like Kim Gordon, Kim Deal, and then kind of like guitarists as well, people like Charlotte Hatherley from Ash, and then also singers like Shirley Manson or Courtney Love, or, you know, bass, and I'm also Alf Demure, like all these people are more, like that's what made me want to play. So, you know, it's really special if I've made someone want to play.
And what are your experiences, or maybe you heard something? How are women treated in the music business?
So I think I always feel like there's almost not dismissed, maybe dismissed is the right word, but and if you almost have to prove yourself more. I feel like you have to prove your worth as a woman. Like, you know, you kind of, people are really surprised when you're like, oh, she can actually play. Like it's a shock somehow. Whereas no man would have to do that. If a man's on the main stage at a festival, that's just a given that he is there. So I think you're always striving to prove yourself. And I think there's also maybe perhaps more pressure on females. So if you're not like super amazing, then people are quicker to critique you. Whereas men wouldn't have that same thing.
Have you experienced some special situations that you can tell us? Maybe someone said something bad to you or so?
I think a lot of mine are a lot of the UK press, when we were first starting out, were just really like so quick to be quite mean about me. I think because I'm quite enthusiastic on stage and quite passionate, you know, for some reason that they didn't like that. And I don't, but then I think if there was a man performing like that, I don't think with the same response would have been given. So just lots of kind of, you know, mean things written about me in the UK press, but that was the nature of it at the time. I think a lot of, you know, there's a big thing about how certain publications would build bands up and then bring them back down again. That's changed a lot now. I think that doesn't happen quite so much, luckily. I don't know, we'll see with our next album, I guess, what they say.
Can you tell us if sexism in the music scene changed over the years since you've been in a band?
I think more recently there's a willingness to change. I think people are recognizing now that we do need to create more space for women in music, not just on stage, but also the people working with bands. So sound engineers, monitor engineers, guitar techs, people working backstage at festivals. I think people are recognizing that there is a real disparity, and that there are way more men than women, and that should change. I think just the fact that it's being recognized now is a good thing, but there's still a long way to go. I think kind of there's still that sort of old-fashioned view sometimes, and that sexism has definitely not gone away. I think it's still there.
Okay, you already mentioned it, but can you tell us about women in the music business that inspired you?
So when I was a teenager, I really loved Garbage. I loved Shirley Manson. I thought she was just incredible. Then Charlotte Hatherley from Ash, Hole were one of my favorite bands. So Courtney Love and the various sort of female, you know, quite a few lineup changes in Hole, but you know, all of them kind of really inspiring to me. And then bands like Tegan and Sarah as well. A lot of pop music too. I've always really loved, like, Kylie Minogue was my favorite artist when I was 2, and I think she'll always be, you know, very special to me. So yeah, a lot of pop music as well. And then now I kind of only really listen to bands that have female vocals. That's just what I like to listen to. So there's bands like the Big Moon, Nova Twins, who are new and doing really exciting things, the Pearl Hearts as well. We've been lucky to have some really great support bands. One that springs to mind is a band called Pins, who are a Chester-based band. They toured around the States with us. So we always try to have bands with women in on tour with us, just because there are so many great bands. So that, you know, if they want to play with us, then they should.
Okay, and in general, do you maybe have any recommendations for us, maybe a discovery that you think we should hear?
So I think I'm going to give you there's two. There's Nova Twins, who are a London-based band, and then the Big Moon, and also I'm going to give you three, and then the Pearl Hearts. Both Nova Twins and the Pearl Hearts are both two pieces, both like quite heavy, quite rock and roll, and just really great songs as well. Really great live, like lots of energy from both the Pearl Hearts and Nova Twins. Yeah, so they'd be my.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your time. And I hope for you that it's not much time until you can play live again.
Yeah, me too. I hope sometime this year that we'll see. We'll see. It will come back, I'm sure. And everyone will be ready for it as well. I think music fans have missed it as much as musicians. So yeah, it'd be amazing when we finally can.
Yeah.
I will definitely come if you play in Coney Island.
Oh yeah, we'll be back there for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for taking the time.
Have a nice evening.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.